Ernest Holmes wrote in Living the Science of Mind, page 118, "Since the mind within you is the mind of God, and since the mind of God has been in all people, it follows that the intelligence within you understands what the great of the earth have been talking about. You already have within you an understanding, a comprehending mind. The mind of God has no problems, no difficulties, and is never confused. When you know that the mind within you is God and cannot be confused, then your intellect becomes clarified." So let us use the creative power of our spoken word together with conviction as we read the affirmation. I accept that I am rooted in the divine, a unique individualization of the living spirit. I know this truth, and I live in this truth, and accept my unlimited inner capacities for love, wisdom, creativity, and joy.
We got people to say individualization. Individualization, right. We're getting good at that, huh? So this month is all about the truth that we are rooted in the divine, rooted in the spirit. So what does that mean when we say we're rooted in the divine? And for me, it is a reminder of who I am in truth, who we are in truth, what all of this is in truth, that everything emanates from an infinite, invisible source. And what we see with our five senses is just a projection of what we believe. It's so amazing to think about this. But we are the pure spirit that that uses these bodies in this particular plane to have this thing called human experience, to explore who we are, to exercise our creativity. And the more that we wake up to that, the more that we can, and I love this idea, this came into my mind actually today, the more that we can play and co create in joy. Play and co create in joy. Anybody for that? Yeah, more play. So this idea of being rooted in the infinite invisible. Everything actually emanates from the invisible to the visible. And that's a really important thing to remember. So the intention then, my intention for all of us this month, and I invite you to join me in this intention, is that we expand our concept of who we are, that we lay aside the limited ideas of self, and that we step into a more expanded concept. And again, that we learn more fully how to play, actually have fun, play in this field of pure potentiality and possibility that we are and that we in which we exist, in which we live, move, and have our being. So this field of pure potentiality and possibility is another word for God. This omnipresence that surrounds us, that's within us, that is the source of all. The resource book that I'm using this month is Living the Science of Mind. And this is the first month that I'm joining the entire Centers for Spiritual Living in my overall theme and topic. And they give us kind of a few little bits and pieces here to carry us on. But so what we're doing this month is being done in CSLs all over the planet. Isn't that exciting? Okay, so today, the aspect of this topic that I'm focused on is the highest and best is your personal self. And when I'm talking about your personal self, I'm talking about with a capital S, the true self, that unlimited self that I spoke about. Because here's the key here is the highest and best. We talk a lot here about I want the highest and best in my life. I'm creating the highest and best or whatever. The truth is your true self is the highest and best that you've been seeking, and that's with the S, which is unified with the all that is, which is the all that is, the presence of God individualized. So we are therefore one with, and I love this name for God, the vibration of the Most High. We are one with the vibration of the Most High. So we are the vibration of the Most High, individualized. We are that which we are seeking. It's here all the while, that within presence. So as long as we keep seeking outside of ourselves, we suffer. As long as we go after all of those shiny things out there, whether they are the products of the media that the media flashes in front of our faces, or whether we buy into what a lot of our culture produces in the form of songs, not here, but in other places, songs that give you the impression that you're not complete without Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, or that makes you think that you have to buy this product in order to be more appealing to other people. That message, it's time for that message to die. It's time for us to hospice that old idea, right? And let it move on. Because the truth is that as long as we buy into that trance, we are going to be doing the same thing over and over again, looking outside of ourselves for something that's going to make us happy. Looking outside of us, oh, is that going to make me happy? Is this going to make me happy? Oh, maybe that will make me happy. And the truth is the only way, the only true source of happiness emanates from right inside of each one of us. We are responsible for generating happiness and for being that presence, that light wherever we go. Everything flows from the inside out, from the invisible to the visible. Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the book, The Four Agreements. Anybody read that book? Yeah, that's a great book, isn't it? I love how he talks about what happens to us when we enter this physical plane. We come in, as these expanded beings of light, as new infants. We are totally rooted in source, and even though we can't verbalize it, we are in that field of pure potentiality and possibility, and we just come in, and then there's this thing that he calls domestication that takes place, where little by little over the years, let's face it, our parents have been immersed. They've been immersed in this this trance of being on the planet, that our happiness is outside of ourselves, this idea of separation. And so this is not about blaming anybody, but this is about realizing what happens. So we get domesticated and we get taught who we are as separate beings, and that if we're going to attain our good, we have to do this, this, and this. We have to be this, that, and the other way. And soon over time, our essence gets covered over by these false beliefs, these false ideas. So the shift then, so here we are, we're ready, we're willing, we have this great desire in our hearts to step into this truth of the infinite invisible self that we are. And so it's important to remember that this journey, which is designed the way it's designed, the contrast actually is perfect, because it it acts as a catalyst to give birth to new ideas and new desires, and helps us with this journey of self-discovery, of discovering the self with a capital S, the divine within, the divine that is the all that is. And it moves us forward. And in the process, we can have a whole lot of fun creating together this thing that I like to call heaven on earth. We get to co-create that together. We get to lay aside our ideas of suffering and struggle and strife, and we get to step into an idea that this is a joy to be here. It's a joy to be on this planet. And what a joy to have people of like mind that are in this community that we can share that with. that we can play with. Yes. So the shift that we're talking about then is the shift from duality consciousness, because that's what the domestication process does. It makes us, we get this, not makes us, we gain this idea that somehow we're separate. We get this idea of opposites, good and evil, right and wrong, struggle and strife. And consumerism is run by this mentality of duality. Mentality of duality, I like that. So we want to shift from the mentality of duality to the awareness of oneness, or the consciousness of oneness. I love what Ernest Holmes says about this. He says, "It is only when we let go of all human will and recognize the pure essence of spirit incarnated in us that thought rises above a belief in duality." It all goes back to knowing the higher truth about life, about us, about who we are. Pure spirit incarnated in us and as us. So letting go of the will of the conditioned mind then, that is wired into our brain. There have been a lot of studies on the neural pathways in the brain. Letting go of the will of that conditioned mind really is what we're talking about in the A Course in Miracles tradition. This is called the ego. What it really is, though, it's the animal nature that we're born into that wants to survive, and doesn't want to die, and so there's this whole fight or flight stress response that is wired in to help us survive. However, we are more than that, and so it's important for us to know how to manage these physical bodies, bring them back into the relaxation response so that we can thrive, not just survive, so we can thrive. So recognizing that we are pure spirit then is what is meant by is thy will be done actually takes on a whole new meaning. It's not thy will, some separate God out there who's different from me, I'm giving my will over to you. We go within. Thy will be done. The will of the highest and best personal self with a capital S, which is the presence of God. Thy will be done. So calling upon the will of the divine means that we are calling upon the qualities of the divine. We're calling upon more love, more peace, more joy, greater wisdom. We're calling upon that truth of who we are to be revealed more fully. Thy will be done. Isn't that lovely? When we know the universe is for us and we know what the nature of God is, we know we're calling upon something really wonderful. Thy will be done then becomes a great joy. The next thing that is part of this journey of the shifting from duality to oneness is a letting go of doubt. And that means doubt in the self, doubt in life itself, and and faith in its place. And I, I love what we teach in the foundations class. Sharon, you know this, right? What is it?
What we teach.
Yeah, doubt, the doubt out faith in his place.
Yes, it's an amazing process. You remove that which is doubt and you replace it with your knowingness.
Yes, right. And it goes like this. It's very simple. Anytime you find yourself or your mind going off into a state of duality, and you can tell that because you're feeling something other than love, peace, and joy. I mean, it's that simple. When you're in a fear state, all you do is do the and this is science. You break up the thought form. So you go doubt out, faith in its place. So try that. Ready? Doubt out, faith in its place. What do you notice? I'll tell you, every time I do that, I get this rush of energy that goes through me. It's like all this tingling, and it feels good. Let's do it again. It feels good. Doubt out, faith in its place. So that's just an instant feel-good thing that you can do anytime. Of course, if you start doing it all the time and with other people who don't know what you're doing, you just never know. But who knows? They may play along. Okay, so that puts us right back into the field of pure potentiality and possibility, just that simple little thing. I have a story about a little girl by the name of Tess, age 8. And this is a great illustration of faith. So one night, Tess overheard her parents talking, and they were talking about her younger brother who had a brain tumor. And the family at that time did not have the finances in order to pay for his surgery. And in order for him to be saved, he needed that surgery. At least, that's what the family came to realize. And so the mother and the father were just distraught. And the father just finally said, the only thing that's going to save our son is a miracle. We need a miracle. And so Tess heard this, and she looked in her bed, she went into her bedroom, she pulled out the jar where she'd been saving her coins, poured them on the floor, counted them, and put them back in, put the top back on, and she slipped out the back door and went down to Rexall's drugstore. So as she was at Rexall's drugstore, she saw that the pharmacist was talking to some man behind the counter. So she waited patiently for a little while, and then when the conversation continued and she knew she needed to get back home soon, she finally started shuffling her feet to see if she could get his attention, and he ignored her. So then what she decided to do, she decided to clear her throat, and she did the most loud throat clearing she could ever come up with. He continued to ignore her. So finally, she took one of the coins out of her jar and she tapped it really loudly on the glass counter. And so finally, very annoyed, he turns around and he looks at her and he says, "What do you want, little girl?" And she said, I need a miracle. Our family needs a miracle. She says, "I want to buy a miracle, actually. I'd like to buy a miracle. How much does a miracle cost? My little brother, you see, needs some surgery, and so I want to buy a miracle." And he said, "Well, we don't have miracles. We don't sell miracles here, little girl." And she said, and she continued. She didn't let it drop. She says, "But I have money here, and if this is not enough money, then I can get more." And so, just in that moment, the man that he was speaking to stepped forward and he says, "I'm the pharmacist's brother." He said, "Tell me a little bit more about what's going on here. What do you mean you need a miracle?" And she said, "Well, my brother needs some surgery. He has something really horrible going on he has something growing in his brain and it needs to be removed." And so the pharmacist's brother said, "Well, how much money do you have?" And she said, "I have $1.11." And he said, "You know what? That's just a coincidence." He said, That's exactly how much miracles cost for little brothers." And so as it turned out, this particular man was Dr. Carlton Armstrong, who was a neurosurgeon in Chicago. And so he said, "Well, how about if you take me to your family and introduce me to your mom and dad and let me see your brother?" And so, to make a long story short, the operation was done as a gift for free or for $1.11. And the little boy recovered and was home and doing well. And the parents were kind of like going over, how did all of this happen? I know we asked for a miracle. And the mother said, "Well, I wonder how much that operation cost." And the little girl said, I know. It cost $1.11. And so it cost $1.11 plus a deep and abiding faith of a little girl. Isn't that a beautiful story? So faith in the field of all possibilities. That's what that little girl was exemplifying. She didn't give up. She believed that a miracle was possible. And she did all that she could to make sure that she did her part. So, one of the things that we want to let go when we live and dwell and move and have our being in this awareness of who we are, this presence of the divine, this presence of God rooted in the Spirit, it's time to let go of the insanity of trying to change things outside of ourselves to be happy. We talked a little bit about that earlier. So, here's the quote from Living the Science of Mind. The God within you creates every circumstance and every situation you have ever experienced. Circumstances are always the fruition of your thought. Circumstances are always the fruition of your thought. Now remember, a lot of these thoughts that take place happen on a subconscious level. So we want to be gentle with ourselves and not immediately go into self-blame or anything like that, because it's important to remember the domestication process. The thing is, though, in this point in time, when we're aware of that, we can step into greater responsibility, self-responsibility, and begin to create anew. One of the methods that are out there that is a very simple but quick way to begin the process of cleansing the subconscious mind of all these thought forms is a method called Ho'oponopono by Dr. Len. Anybody ever heard of that? Ho'oponopono by Dr. Len. I took a workshop from him back in the late 90s when he was in Philadelphia. And the interesting thing is, I'm going to share this method with you, but one of the things that he said that really stuck with me is that the ultimate cleanser of the subconscious mind is love. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So the more that we bring love to the table in every situation, no matter how challenging it may seem, the more we're able to cleanse the subconscious mind. And we share one great big subconscious mind with all humanity. So we are doing our part of cleansing the subconscious mind of all. So basically, he said, and this goes back to what we were just talking about, the secret is there is no such thing as out there. Everything happens in your mind. Everything you see, everything you hear, every person you meet, you experience in your mind. And so it's always kind of eye-opening to look around and realize all these people that are sitting around us are having a different experience because we're all living out of our own minds. Our own, isn't that kind of amazing? And it's something that I have to keep reminding myself that everybody doesn't think like me. So, because everything you experience happens in your mind, then there's something we can do about it. Because the true essence, the conditioned mind, all that stuff that's happening is under the charge of the truth of who we are, that personal self with a capital S, that self that we discover when we dip into meditation, into the space between the thoughts, into the silence, and get reconnected with source, when we really let go of everything and just rest in the silence. That field of pure potentiality and possibility, that field of the divine, of God, is who we are. And that is a place of choice. We get to choose. We get to choose how to design our subconscious mind. And then the subconscious mind becomes the servant of the spirit, essence of who we are. So everything that comes to our attention that creates anything other than love, peace, and joy when we feel a disturbance, when we feel a sadness, when we feel and this is not to put down any of these feelings because feelings are part of our human nature, so I want to be really careful with this. But it's an opportunity to cleanse the mind, to cleanse the deeper mind. And so with this Ho'opono process, we're reminded that thoughts are just um, thoughts, that manifestations, everything in the physical world is really a thought form. Everything comes from thought. Everything begins there. So change the thought and the external experience must change. So there are actually 4 steps in this Ho'opono process. The first one is repentance. The next one is forgiveness, then gratitude, then love. And he said you can actually do it in different order. It doesn't have to be in the same order all the time. So the repentance part is, I'm sorry. So it's just basically saying, I'm sorry for any way that I participated in creating this experience that I'm having. And then the forgiveness, please forgive me. The gratitude, thank you. And then I love you. And again, this is the process that he teaches. But when I was in that workshop, he said, if you just simply say, I love you, if you can't remember all 4 steps and just say, I love you, that alone is really powerful. So if we can just love and accept and just bring that energy of love to all of our so-called negative thoughts, to any situation that we're in, we bring the transforming power of the divine into it. And it helps us then to begin to see with the eyes of God, to see everything around us with the eyes of love. The final point that I want to make is the mind of God has created all possibility. So here's the cool thing. All possibility is all, and the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 16 through 19 actually speaks to this. All possibility is already present in this mind of God that surrounds us, that's within us, that we use every moment. And so that means that anything that has been created in the past comes from that field of pure potentiality and possibility. And everything that is ever going to be is from that same field. So here's what 2 Corinthians, actually chapter 5, verses 16 through 19 says. It says, so from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Did you hear that? We stop thinking the world of effects. We start looking to the invisible of the spirit. And it says, though we once regarded Christ in this way, in other words, once we thought Christ was a body, some person in a body, he said, we do so no longer. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, from the worldly point of view, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, is in this mindset of the field of pure potentiality and possibility, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here. I love reading these biblical verses with a higher level of understanding. It gives me God bumps. It really does. So you and I already are able to project these new ideas in the mind of the divine into reality. New thoughts, new inventions, new whatever it is, newness of every kind. And so in each and every moment that we have a new thought, that we open ourselves to a higher thought, we are new. We are made new because we are a product of our thoughts. So you and I can decide and redecide again in each and every moment and create something new. Isn't that cool? So here's a story about that I think is just so beautiful. And this is a story written by a 17-year-old girl. And she said, my dad is the best dad I could ask for. He's a loving husband to my mom, always making her laugh. He has been to every one of my soccer games since I was 5. And of course, she's now 17. She was 17 when she wrote this. And he provides for our family as a construction foreman. This morning, when I was searching through my dad's toolbox for pliers, I found a dirty folded up paper at the bottom of my dad with my dad's handwriting dated exactly 1 month before the day I was born. And this is what it reads: I am 18 years old and an alcoholic. I am failing out of college. I am a child abuse victim with a criminal record of auto theft and soon to be a teen father. But I swear I will make things right for my little girl. Do you hear the intention, the power of the intention there? He said, I will be the dad I always wanted. And to which the girl that wrote the article says, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it. So we know how he did it, right? The power of intention. He drew upon that field of pure potentiality and possibility. He made himself new with that declaration, with that inner commitment, because we project our intentions into life experience. So I invite you to stand and let's affirm some of these truth statements that I made today, and let's bring it more fully into and consciously into our lives. So repeat after me. I am pure, unlimited spirit.
I am pure, unlimited spirit.
Oh, let me share with the new people too, something that we've learned. If you stand like this in the superhero stance, we actually, our body temples actually empower this thing that we say. We can also, another thing that also has been presented is that you can also raise your arms and accept it as well, and you're standing in a very powerful stance. So you choose which one you want. You can do this one, you can do this one, or you can just stand there. I mean, it's really up to you. But I invite you to choose a powerful stance for yourself as you say this. Let's do it again. I am pure spirit. I am pure, unlimited being.
I am pure, unlimited being.
Pure spirit.
Pure spirit.
I am rooted in the invisible realm of the divine.
I am rooted in the divisible realm of divine.
I surrender the conditioned mind.
I surrender the conditioned mind.
To be cleansed of all that prevents me.
Be cleansed of all that prevents me.
From seeing God everywhere.
From seeing God everywhere.
And so we're going to do the Ho'oponopono. Ready? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
I hospice the old.
I hospice the old.
I midwife the new.
I midwife the new.
I play.
I play
And co-create.
and co-create
in the field of pure potentiality.
In the field of pure potentiality.
And pure possibility.
And pure possibility.
I use my co-creative capacities.
I use my co-creative capacities.
For the highest good.
For the highest good.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Woo! Yes.